officially.
3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Hanging with the Hoopers podcast. Tim and Andrew Hooper, your hosts. We have a guest on with us, Brad Walsh. Brad, welcome.
Excited to be here. I've never actually done one of these before. I've seen you guys do them. I guess most recently at the Maryland Land Title Association convention. So excited to be part of it and hopefully not dumb it down too much. So we'll see what happens.
I posted on LinkedIn.
No dumbing down possible.
Yeah, I posted on LinkedIn this morning. Well, I was sharing one of my buddies, Kent Cavalier, with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's the chaplain. But he posted, he said, you will become the company you hang around. And I said, in 2025, my goal is to level up the company. So I would consider you a level up, brother.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
My goal for 24 was to do my own podcast, but I failed miserably on that. So
well, the year's still here.
We've
So
got at least one in for the year. So
one in for the year. All
one
right.
for 12 ain't bad.
Way to make it goal.
It's accountability, right?
It
It's good. So.
We also, with that, we're going to toast here in a second, but as we were setting up, I asked Andrew, I said, what setup do we need? Because, we have mics and we have things and all that. He said, bro, I'm going to keep it so simple, and here's why. I want everyone in the room, anybody who's thought about doing any form of recording, it doesn't have to be a podcast, but maybe it's a long-form video like we talked about earlier this year. He said, I want them to see how easy, how simple it is. And really, just like we're talking here, you could literally be sitting in your office with your own team at Caldwell Banker or Remax Elite, wherever you're at in the world. You could be sitting with your own team during sales huddle, bring 10, 15 minutes worth of strategy or your vision, your goals for 2025, hit record, and bam, you've got, you understand? So he just said, I want to show how easy it is to hit record and not overproduce. So we literally set up here, this right here. You guys saw it, 5-10 minutes. We had to find an extension cord. Thank you very much.
Yep.
So here we are. So welcome.
Ease of use.
Ease of use.
We talked about this all year. Did anyone do this, by the way, in the room?
Long form video.
Still something that's on the checklist, like Brad from the year?
Who's doing it?
Ice, cold as ice.
Wendy and Kat are doing long form
Good.
video. Yeah.
Good. Yeah. So, the setup, you can use your phone, use your computer with a webcam. That's really all you need to create a quality long-form video that can turn into more content. So, Tim, why don't you lead us into, Brad, why don't you lead us into Cheers? Since this is your show.
Well, this is not hanging with Brad. This is hanging with the Hoopers. But, I think when we first started the conversation about doing the agent series, I didn't really know what to expect per se. Obviously, we've got a great relationship with y'all, and both of our relationships have been built on delivering value. Mm-hmm. And what we wanted to do was deliver value to our agents and referral sources to be able to take that and build your own businesses beyond that. And I think the neat thing for me, as we've been able to watch throughout the course of the year and the different things that we've built on, some of the different sessions, I've learned a tremendous amount myself that I've started taking into what I'm doing in my role. And then it's really fun for me to see the people who've been attending that and learning and actually applying those concepts. I can certainly see the videos that people are posting and how they're using social media differently or how they're optimizing what they're doing out in the world. So that's been neat to see because, this market for me has been the Anne Arundel County market in particular. It's where I cut my teeth in real estate, and it's where I live, work, and play. And I have so many great relationships out here as well as our settlement officers. But it's fun to see people grow in their careers as well because, so much of it, when something's new, it's tough, right? You're like, how am I going to look on camera? Well, I know how I look on camera. I look how I look in real life. It's not,
But today you're sitting next to me, so you look super amazing.
We actually compare how much gray hair each of us has to each other depending on our haircut cycle. So.
There's a reason I wear a vest, It keeps everything a little more trim.
It's felt with the vest.
Very much.
But no, I think, when I look at it, when you talk about doing a cheers to the people who came. Cheers to the people who invested in themselves and invested in their businesses. And I always talk about this. It's taking the time to work on your business, not necessarily in your business. And it's tough when you feel like there's not enough time in the day to do the business, but you guys have taken it out. So cheers to you.
Cheers.
Thanks
for taking care of us, Brad.
Absolutely.
Little champagne.
And I do want to call your attention to Vicky's cranberry inside of your toast glass. That is Eagle on point marketing right there. Cranberry color. Right? So
yes, and the cups say Eagle title, which is even more perfect. That's awesome. I love it.
So no, it's great to be here, and all year long, to Brad's point, you guys have checked in. like you've checked into. I look at this as a gym. Every time I get up to speak with real estate agents or mortgage bankers, I always think about when I walk in the room, I'm like, if I was walking into my gym, or as I did this morning, or whatever days I am with my coach, when I walk in, his job is to put me through the paces. His job is to stretch me. His job is to grow me and build me and make me stronger. So every time I walk into any training room or on any stage, I think about what weights am I going to, what exercises are we going to do together? What stretch are we going to do together? Because really, it's a mental stretch, right? It's a mental, it's a belief stretch.
Yep.
It's a stepping out and doing something. It's a courage stretch. We're all in sales. And sales, it's interesting. Sales it can be fun at times, and then it can feel like a rut at times. I told Andrew leading up to today, I want to talk about today a little bit about boring. The boring work is where the magic is. And I'm telling you, it is the boring work. It is the consistency. Somebody said, I'm consistently working on consistency. I'm like, that's good. So, but I do want to kind of talk about, but to kind of break down what our plan is for today. Andrew.
Yeah. So let's start with this. We went through a lot this year. We asked you guys to bring some questions. So let's start with that. Any questions? Let's run through some of the topics we covered. Anyone have a breakthrough where you felt like, man, I started doing something this year that you wanted to do? Yes.
We're doing like 4 videos a week.
4 videos a week.
1 a year.
That's awesome.
It's so hard, and now I'm like, come on, let's just do it. We just video everything.
Fantastic.
But
Awesome.
Girl power, like holding each other accountable.
Yeah.
Are there days you show up and don't want to do video and Kat does, and then there's days you show up and don't want to do it?
No,
Wendy
Wendy
does?
always wants to do the video.
Wendy always wants to
So
I still am not certain.
Yeah,
But we have actually incorporated some of our favorite referral partners. Like we just did a great one with Brooke.
it's nice.
And actually through that,
Brad's next.
yeah.
We got a big one with Joni. We just did like 2 hours worth of videos 2 days ago. Our stager, which we're going to segment with the
Beautiful.
AI that you taught us.
Yeah.
Great.
Yep.
I think getting that content
New home
out
buyer.
and really, again, committing to the time, right? Just
It's
like
just-
anything, it's
we
the
have-
boring, right?
yeah, we
You
make
have to,
video.
it's part of your business.
Yeah.
When I first started doing video about 5 years ago, and I've kind of put it on the back burner, which I probably shouldn't. Someone said to me, hey, I love the content, but do it 52 straight weeks.
Yeah.
And then tell me how it is. And it really resonated with me because it's not something that doing sporadically does really good. You can build your reach, you can build your growth, you can build your brand, and all of a sudden that consistency is awesome.
Well, it's like what you taught us. I mean, we're getting per video between Instagram and the story and Facebook. We're getting like 3,000 hits a video.
3,000 hits per video.
And think about what that would cost to advertise.
Correct.
With a postcard and a mailbox. I mean, it's
Wild.
Yeah.
Well, and the content, like the one thing when I look at
it's
it,
goofy. I mean, but
well, goofy or not, like I always say that goofiness is, some people are like,
Lean into it. That's your brand. Lean into it.
not our.
people get to learn about you, they get to learn what you're talking about, but
They build
anyone
trust.
can do just put an ad, right?
Yeah.
When they get to know about your personality, because people work with people that they like, right? If they feel like they know you, you can invest in that. It's huge.
Yeah.
But I definitely, a 2-hour chunk of time, and then that gives you content for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah.
How, did you all identify your kind of our end goal, or like this is the stuff we're going to do first and then work backwards, or did you just say we're just going to start documenting?
We're just, we've got a Dropbox set up and we're
Yeah.
just.
Dropbox and just put the footage in there.
We've got a blooper section coming. You all
Good,
love.
good.
Nice.
Can't wait.
The bloopers, we locked ourselves in my car the other day and we couldn't get out of it. I mean, there's all kinds of crazy things happening.
That's
right.
right. But it's real everyday life. It's
Real
stuff that
everyday
actually
life.
happens. It's about documenting.
It's
Gary
not
V.
just triumph.
Yeah.
It's
Gary Vee says it
who we
best.
work with
Yep.
and, like, who we are.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're not manufacturing something.
No.
It's really just who you are and how you go about your daily life.
Yeah.
It's a lesson we can all learn. And it's funny because I was up earlier this morning, all the way northwest Maryland. And someone asked her, like, man, I get so intimidated because I see these real estate agents who are basically influencers. Like, gosh, like, why are we thinking in that way? Because for our content strategy, it just needs to be credible stuff. It just needs to be relatable. It just needs to be authentically you. So I love that you guys have just started documenting. So for everyone, the lesson here is it's really important to me that you get clear on who you are. So like know what you need to lean into. Like I tell people, I joke, you're never going to see me dancing on TikTok. It's just not me. I'm not going to do any of the choreographed
Andrew's more
stuff.
the sage,
I'm
not
not.
the joker.
I'm not limber enough. I will I'll stretch a muscle. But you will see me talking a lot. You will see me leaning into things that I do well, which is more of my brand voice. And so when you can just align your content strategy with who you are, start documenting the magic. That's where the magic happens. And you get too much. Tim and I have a library of hundreds of little video clips that we could use. We don't even have time to use because you just get in the habit of doing the activity.
It goes back to what you were saying, though. So as you're developing video, as you lean into telling the story, getting value out there, here's the thing, couple of things. The millennial and the Gen Z, they want to experience you before they engage with you. So think about in your sales process as you reach out to a new lead. Okay, that's great. You leave a voicemail, you do your sales practice, but at that moment in time, somebody might be triggered like, "Ooh, who is this person?" Google, and what's showing up? Can they experience you? And like very quickly find a video, experience you. That's what they want. They're going to go Google you. Can I experience? They see a vocal, meaning a video. They can click play real quick. Oh, I like her. I'm going to call her back. Millennials, Gen Z, and not just millennials and Gen Z. Baby boomers now have been trained based on Google and everything else to experience a brand before they engage with the brand. Right. So boring's important, but why boring? Because we can't go to the next level till we get the muscle memory down.
What do you think, Brad?
Why.
Well, it's funny, you were talking about the blooper reel. And, if anyone wants to stay after, I will show you the best blooper reel of all time, because I took every single video blooper when you guys taught me about CapCut. And I went home that night and I made a blooper reel of 5 years of bloopers.
You're going to say on the podcast what it is? Or is that not going public yet? Aaron, head of business development. No.
I have a potty mouth, so if you can deal with that, then it's actually quite funny. But there you go. It does, and I say it that way. Like you talk about being real, being who you are.
Yeah.
One thing I've learned in my career, and I've been fortunate enough to be able to do this. Who I am privately is who I am publicly. Mm-hmm. I think there's too many people that want to create this public persona that's different than their private persona. Mm-hmm. And I think when you get yourself in that world where you're trying to figure out, all right, who am I in this moment or that moment? Like you get yourself into this weird dynamic. So for me personally, I'm not for everyone. I get it. I'm cool with that. For the people that I am for, they love me, and I'm good with that. But it's part of your brand. It's part of your persona. And I think, I used it from the blooper perspective. Sometimes you just got to get out there and start doing it. One of my first videos I ever shot was actually down on a farm in South County because I was actually trying to underwrite a transaction, and we were trying to figure out if it had a driveway that was actually accessible to get to the property.
You don't know if you go, right?
And I was down there, and I actually was really sick at the time. I was about to have a surgery, and so that's like one of the last videos I had before I got my surgery. And so I go back that one a lot because that was when I first got into it. That was when I first committed to it. And there's some really good bloopers from that one. It was raining. Yeah. It was foggy. Yeah. I was sick. I just didn't feel like myself. But it also was one of the first things where I said, you know what? I'm not going to be someone else. I can't dress like Terry. Okay, I used to try, and you know what? You can't. You got to come short on that one every day of the week. People know me. I got my khakis on. I got my Sperry's, and that's not changing. And I'm going to be who I am and be authentic in doing it. And I think that's what video is all about for me, at least.
I agree. And just the life lesson in this, and for people in the room and anyone watching these clips, I mean, the ability to be who you are in private and public and have the freedom that gives you in your life to never have to look over your shoulder and try to remember, am I going to be caught in some sort of like weird situation, is so powerful. I mean, It's funny that you went there. That goes into kind of leadership, but this is like leading yourself.
Leader of one.
Leader of one before you can lead others.
Well, it's funny. So my wife's a school teacher, so we'll go out to a local restaurant or something. She's like, looks around like, all right, are there any kids? I'm like, what are you worried about? She's like, well, I'd like to get a glass of wine with dinner. I'm like, well, there's a Coors Light that's coming this way, so I'm not incredibly worried about it, and this is what's going to happen. But again, when you live, work, and play in the communities that you're in, not being authentic and not being yourself and trying to have two different personalities, that's dangerous.
So dangerous.
That's so dangerous, because then you're like, all of a sudden, maybe you have one too many, maybe you do something, and all of a sudden you get caught and you're like not in that zone. I never want to do that. To me, it's,
Yeah.
I am who I am, but also embracing that with your clients and your partners around you, I think is really important, because when you are authentic and they know what they're going to get no matter what, I think my team can pretty much call me any hour of the day and they know exactly how I'm going to respond. I think that's important from a leader perspective.
Yep.
I think it's important from a partner perspective, because as a service provider, it's really important that our clients know what they're going to get from us. We set the expectations, we live up to the expectations. There's too many people that go out and sell the sun, sky, and moon, and you come back and you're like, well, you didn't deliver any of that.
Yeah.
So by just them knowing what they're going to get consistently every time, I think it's really important with that. And if you say you're going to do something, better darn sure go out and deliver it.
I was on a Zoom earlier with one of my partners on our national team with a client of ours, and this client of ours, great, like big growth mindset, really, really like out there. He's in everything and hard to nail down. And because of that, my colleague is having a hard time rolling out a solution with this guy. And he's a client of ours. And she literally sat there and said, I'll just change his name for the sake of protecting the innocent, but he's like, Bob, like, I don't want to fail you. We're starting to roll this solution out and I can't get traction with you. That won't be good for you. It won't be good for us. So help me understand how we work together. And I sat back and I was like, how refreshing. I didn't have to, like, she had professionalism, but it was like, I get it. You're growing stuff. You're busy. But how do we? So we ended up establishing a Zoom every other week, non-negotiable on the calendar that we're all going to get on to get traction and move things forward, because he's hard to nail down. My point there was, it was so refreshing not to sit over there bending over backwards to this guy who can't be nailed down.
People want to be yes people, right? They if you're a yes person, you're an order taker. Okay, that's how I look at it. In this business, you cannot be an order taker and be successful. You need to be a professional advisor. I don't call my CPA and go, all right, this is what I'd like to do. No, I'm calling saying, hey, I need some guidance on how to get here, and I'm going to listen to what you're telling me to do.
Yeah.
It's the same thing you call an attorney. You call any other professional service. We are in the professional service industry, whether it's on the title side, whether it's on the mortgage side, whether it's on the realtor side. It's a professional service. And the more that you treat it like that, again, you don't go to your doctor and tell them what your problem is. You give them symptoms. You ask for guidance on it. And I think too many people just want to say yes, which doesn't get you in trouble on day one. It gets you in trouble when everything goes sideways down the line.
Yeah.
And that client is now expecting you to be the yes person to back them up. Sometimes you got to be the person that says, hey, buddy, you're going to need to cool your jets here, because you're out of line of how this. You need to trust the professionals around you to get there.
Yeah.
I think that's what you're saying about trying to nail them down. Like,
I had a funny story specifically to that, kind of wanted to share. So when I used to lead banking teams, and I had an employee, we were training a lot of people on very basic stuff. I mean, this is super basic stuff. And this was a new employee, and someone walked in and said they had questions on a loan. Okay. And the new employee had them wait, went back to the mortgage loan officer. Hey, someone's here to see you about a loan. Had to wait for like 40 minutes to see the loan officer. Person walked up, goes back to see the loan officer, and like, okay, so like, I need to figure out how to get my title from my car loan. I paid it off, and I don't have the title from y'all yet. Order taker versus how do you stop? And I think the key in avoiding being an order taker in your business and in your life, and no matter who you're helping, you have to stop and ask more questions before you make assumptions. It's true in a lot of areas in life, but stop and ask more questions. So, okay, a loan. So what specifically about a loan? We don't know if it's servicing or it's new, right? We don't know if it's this or that. I go back to the realtor that I called. And I think I told this story here earlier in the year, but I called about a piece of land in Virginia. And it was like, hey, and I knew it wasn't the biggest transaction this person was going to do, right? It was a small parcel. It wasn't that much. Hey, I'm interested in this piece of property. Oh, yeah, it's not available. Okay, cool. Have a good day. Right? Order taker. And what made it worse is 3 minutes later, I got the auto text from his AI CRM saying, hey, so-and-so has added you to their text message and reach out if you need us.
No setting of expectations.
So I want to connect the dots, like what we're talking about to everyone in the room and the audience of like being an order taker in your life, anything really is, are we truly understanding what that person's problem is before we make and offer a solution or we make a recommendation? And I don't think you could ever go wrong in slowing down and asking more open-ended questions to truly understand. And then making sure you're saying something to the extent of, I feel like I totally understand the scenario. Here's what I get it. Is that correct? Yes, that's correct. Okay, great. I'm going to make a recommendation for you based on that. I either need to go research it or I need to do this, I need to do that, but we got to figure out the root cause before we can do that.
Can I tie a couple of things?
Please.
We're talking about being authentically you, being okay with who you are. What I see a lot of professionals do is they overcompensate. They're overcompensating for a persona. They're overcompensating that they're the professional. I see overcompensation all the time.
A lot, yeah.
And how this all ties together is when you're comfortable in your own skin, when you're just relaxed, you're the expert. You know the questions to ask, and when you can just show up and okay, gotcha. So what are you trying to do here? What are you looking and just really dig in? You know that you can help them succeed, but you have to give yourself that space. The ones that get me in trouble personally are the ones who are hurried. The clients who are hurried. They're the high D personalities. They need an answer quick. And I will turn into a yes person because I'm trying to adapt to them quickly instead of pumping the brakes. Hey, Brad, when will you have 10 minutes? Because there are some strategic questions I want to ask you. No,
my brother's
right. Right. But for instance, protecting Jay's name to protect the innocent.
Why would I protect him? He's not up here. We can
Yeah, where is Jay?
But those are the ones that
corner
get me. That we actually met in the men's room, but those are the ones that get me into trouble, right? Are those personas that turn me a little stressed or a little hyper, and then I have to try to please. Whenever you're feeling rushed or stressed, like I'm dealing with a couple of people in relationship situations, they're like, I have put wrapped my head all around this, and like what this person is giving me is like, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't feel fair. I'm like, chances are it's not. Chances are it's not. Like if you've leveled, so just be who you are, be okay with that, and pump the brakes sometimes, slow people down. Ask, when do you have 10 minutes? Because I want to take this conversation a little deeper with you. I want to do you justice, Brad. I don't want to rush this. I take pride in helping my customers. I'm a consultant. I will dig in with you. But when would you have some more time? Be okay in 2025 to be a bit bolder with your authenticity. Be a bit bolder with your value. You guys are priceless.
Yeah.
You bring so much skill to the table.
So I get to see this a lot. And I, as agents work their way up the price point continuum is where we see it most. The first time, a lot of agents come in for maybe working first-time home buyers, small single families, and then they kind of go up. The first time they go over that million, they're losing their mind, right? I've never had a paycheck this big. Oh my God. What are we going to do? We need to like kiss the ring to whoever to just get this thing done, right? I get it all the time. And everyone gets hyper about it.
Yep.
I've done an incredible amount of $1 million plus transactions, fortunately, in my career. And the biggest thing I can say is the people that are buying and selling those homes, they have to put their pants on the same way that you do. Okay. There's no difference on them. Everyone gets sideways because like, oh, they're, I need to treat them as if they're this VIP. You can treat them with great customer service, but they are still a home buyer or seller. And sometimes what winds up occurring is the agent damages their transaction by imputing this
worshipful.
Well, it's the worship,
like
but it's an anxious energy into it.
Yeah.
And so now people start making bad decisions around it.
Yeah.
And I see it easily once a week right now.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing is if you can slow down and just say, hey, they're real people. Let's jump. Like, oh, they're really busy. You know what does really well with busy people? Let's get an appointment on the calendar. You know what they're used to? Scheduling.
Respect their time. Yeah.
Hey, is there a time that we could jump on just rather than going back on 40 text messages where we're not actually going to get the thing done?
Yep.
Could we get, I need 10 minutes uninterrupted of your time today. And I'm like, and they're like, what? Oh, we don't know. I just need this. I'm like, I'm sure it's that simple, but if you wouldn't just, do me the honor, just give me a few minutes. I've got a pretty busy calendar myself. So if we could talk at 4:00, I think we could get on the same page and get your transaction to where you need to be.
Yeah.
I always say sometimes in real estate, you wind up being a mediator, and it's about mediating people's emotions.
Here's to the mediators.
I always say there was a time where you wanted to buy this house, and there's a time where the seller wanted to sell this house. Can we get back to that moment? But a lot of times when you're dealing with high worth individuals, people get really weird about it. And I'm like, look, they just want to be respected for what they're doing. Yes, they may have time sensitivity of it, but a lot of times if you can just say, look, I need your attention very, very small period of time. I can understand exactly what your concerns may or may not be, and let's get your transaction there. But it's usually when there's like that $1 million gap between something they've ever touched before.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's like, holy crap. Because they see that paycheck.
This is a leadership podcast, so I want to go a little bit to the matters of the heart here.
Yep.
So do you think,
Oh, dear.
Brad's like, where's that champagne?
Yeah.
Now, this is, everyone's different. We know that. So I'm not trying to paint a broad brushstroke here, but I want to ask you a question. Do you feel like it's kind of a lack of self-confidence or more of an internal, like when folks, because personally for me, when I've seen folks in my life who kind of bow and kiss the ring of someone who's either status, like you have a celebrity, or you have the CEO of the company come by, or you have like someone in a position of power or wealth or status that you're dealing with, I think human nature tends to want to, kiss the ring. But I think when you're in a real estate transactions, just as someone's buying $1 million house doesn't necessarily mean they're a millionaire or that they're someone of huge status. So do you think it's more of just the tied in, like, I feel like I don't deserve this heart stuff? Is it more of like what do you think around some of that? Like, what fuels that in people?
I think it's like if you haven't been there before, you don't realize that they're the same type of people. Okay, go back to the pants comment. Like they still have to put their pants on too. To me, with it, so I'll give you the example this way. When I first started out in this business, I was the youngest title attorney in Anne Arundel County. Somehow, I'm still the youngest title attorney in Anne Arundel County.
No one else has joined because
no one else is coming in, right?
You blew it up here. There's no opportunity.
But I would get these. Take it over. What occurred with it was I was not a known name. I was not a known product. Right. A lot of people hadn't had experience dealing with me. And so I'd come in and, I'd be talking about, hey, you've got an unreleased mortgage. You've got a survey issue. You've got any number of the issues that are out there. And then someone would say, well, I've worked with X for 40 years and he's never brought this issue up before. And I think ultimately with that, like in that moment, it was pretty demeaning for me because I'm like, well, just because you haven't heard about it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Right.
And then all of a sudden they call him and he's like, yeah, that's a real thing. So like you've got to like go through it. So it was like emotionally difficult earlier because no one trusted what you were saying.
Right.
And then I think you just have to, every time you go through one of those, you get not emboldened, but you get more self-confidence and you ultimately get to the point where you're just like, look, all I want to do is get your transaction across the finish line.
Yeah.
You can either work with me to solve the problem or you can work against me fighting that it is a problem. Yeah. They both take energy. But at the end of the day, would you still like to sell this house? Would you still like to buy this house?
Yeah.
So I don't know, from an emotional perspective, it's tough because until
Everyone
you've been there
right?
and it is an experience game too. And especially when you've never seen something before, I think that's when I always went to it. For me, it was going to my underwriters.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't seen it. I needed some help getting through it.
Right.
I didn't really have someone that could guide me through it that way. So I went to them.
Right.
For me, with a lot of the key relationships I've built over the years, I said, like, when you have that problem, call me.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's a deal I'm working on or not. I'll guide you through it and we'll get there. But inherently, people are like, well, I didn't want to call you on the weekend. I'm like, no, please call me on the weekend because I can solve Monday's problem on Saturday before it becomes Monday's problem and we're
too late.
And everyone's like, well, we've already signed the contract. I'm like, well, we're going to need to re-sign that.
One of the best mentors in my life was that person. So first I want to say we started by saying level up who you're around. So if you're looking to get into that next echelon, if you're looking to grow and move into higher, hang around the people who are doing it. Hang around the people who are doing it. They've already had the vision and you'll see how they operate and they're kind of chill. One of my best mentors, the most crisis situations, I felt like the world was burning down. And he'd get on the Zoom call. The first thing he'd do, there's the customer, they're irate. And we're all waiting for everyone to join. And they're not irate. In my brain, I was telling myself, they're irate. This is all going to blow up. And the first thing he would do, he'd get on it, he'd find some way to crack a joke, usually self-deprecation or something. But he'd get everybody like just kind of lighthearted. He would just approach it he'd take the emotion out of his voice. He'd just be like, he'd have his glasses on, he'd lean into the Zoom, and he's like, so Bill, like, what would happen if, and he just pokes and just asks all these questions. He's not, but he would go in lighthearted. And as a young guy who sat back, I'm like, wow, and now he'd been doing it for years, but he was high stakes, crisis situations, go in and just diffuse it. And he just carried this lightweight, very easy going. His emails were very just after the Zoom, just very short and sweet, matter of fact. I'm like, wow, I overcompensate a lot. Thank you so much for getting on the Zoom with us and blah, blah, blah. And the guy, Bill, didn't need that. Bill needed a solution, and Bill also needed to know that this guy knew what he was talking about. The way he was able to diffuse it, he said a lot. So humor and just some comical relief. Speaking of humor, real quick, I got to tell this joke. Do you know why elves sit on shelves? I came up with this, so you guys get to judge whether this is good or not. I went out to my kids the other day, and I said, guys, we were decorating. And I was like, guys, do you know why elves sit on shelves? And all my kids are like, they kind of bounce around the floor, and then they're like, I give up. I'm like, because, see, the elves were getting rowdy in Santa's workshop one day, and he came out and he said, shh, elves? And then my 13-year-old son comes up to me. He says, Dad, put that in ChatGPT and see if it's funny. I'm like, what do you mean, see if it's funny? So I put it in. He had to twist my arm a little bit. If I go put it in ChatGPT, and ChatGPT says, considering how you've tied shelves in with elves, it can be funny. But however, you need to make sure you put a dramatic pause between blah blah blah. So Chat went into like the delivery of it, which was pretty cool. Helpful. And then my 11-year-old son the next day comes to me. He said, Dad, I came up with a joke. And I'm thinking, okay, like this isn't gonna be that funny, like, you know, whatever. And he says, why? And now he loves broccoli. He would be a vegetarian if we didn't eat meat at home. But he loves broccoli. He says, why do vegetarians look forward to Advent so much? Anybody know? Peas on earth. I thought that was better than mine.
Are you amazed, Brian?
I'm pretty amazed. I was thinking about one thing you were saying about leadership when it came to like directing, like lightening the mood and some of those things. One thing I do see where people could be better leaders in their transactions. We've got an acronym around here that I can only partially say, but it's called PUFF. And the theory behind it is everyone wants to text and everyone wants to email. No one wants to talk on the phone. And if you can't get alignment within 3 to 4 texts or emails, you have to pick up something's phone.
Yeah.
But the concept is so important because too many people were like, well, I need to have this in writing so when I get sued later, I'm protecting myself. I'm like, no. If you puff, you won't get sued because you will solve your problem. Your deal will go to the table. Everyone will be happy. And what you do is after you have that phone call, you send a confirmatory email that says, hey, Jane, pursuant to our conversation, my client's going to go ahead and be there for the walkthrough on this. And too many people miss that because they've taken the relationship out of the transaction. And they're not leading their own transactions. They think they're protecting their client. Mm-hmm. They're protecting their client from buying or selling a house. That's all they're protecting them from, which is really not their goal at the end of the day.
It's amazing how techie we've become in that we don't want to use our voices anymore. And our voices just, that's what gives us everything who we are, the tone, the authenticity. So pick up the phone, have the conversation.
I read every email as if it's written in whether or not it's in this, but I read every email as if it's written in all caps with 3 exclamation points at the end.
Who else?
Thank you. What do you mean thank you? Do they really mean thank you? Are they being sarcastic?
And we overthink things. Who else doesn't get a reply when you think you should, or it took a week for someone to reply and you think they must be mad at you, man? I mean,
I didn't know my emails were doing that.
No. Well, you got to remember this. I'm classically trained in worst case scenario.
I will tell you,
That's how I've literally been trained to think that way.
Right.
Being married to me is a real peach. But I walk outside, my wife's like, oh, man, it's gorgeous. It's going to be an awesome, awesome day. I said on it, I'm like, I don't know, it looks like it's going to rain. She said, there's nothing in the forecast. Like, well, we better take a raincoat on this one. But, I think that's what it is. Too many people don't want to engage in those relationships. They don't want to have the phone conversation, because what if they don't have the answer? That's the other thing people don't do enough of in being leaders and working their transactions. It's okay to say that you don't know the answer.
Well, bingo. I was going to chime in with that if you didn't say it.
I'm sorry. I actually don't know the answer to your question. I'm going to go get that answer and I'll be back with you. Yeah. It is absolutely okay to say that to someone, but you know what you have to do? Go get the answer and timely get back to them. That's what most people miss when they say I don't know the answer.
And if you don't get the answer, this is something I learned a long time ago, and it's rolling up on like some deadline, like a holiday or a Friday or something. Pick up the phone, call the person. Hey, Tim, I don't have the answer yet. Still working on it. Yeah. I'll get it to you as soon as I do. Even if it's a voicemail, it's a conversation. Bad news never ages well. So get out ahead of it. It
doesn't solve itself.
It never solves itself, and it never ages well.
Yeah, get ahead of it. I always laugh from the lending world, because we see this all of the time. And with some agents too. But too many people are like, I don't want to call my client and tell them bad news. I'm like, well, why? They're like, well, they're not going to be happy. I'm like, all right, well, let's just say that the closing was going to be delayed for 3 hours because it couldn't get the loan out of underwriting. Would I be happier that you called and told me so I didn't leave my office and I can continue earning a living? Or would you rather me show up and sit in the lobby for 3 hours and stew for 3 hours and then get it done? If you call me and deliver the news and just say, and sometimes people, to your point, forget that, hey, I got no news. Just want to keep you. So no news is news.
Yeah.
Okay.
A good practice for anyone in business where you're quarterbacking the transaction, which many of us are in our own respects, is build yourself some consistency once a week where you're going through every open file and you're giving a check-in regardless of what's going on. If you do that, you will always stay out of the doo-doo when it comes to communication. And when you're telling your loan officer story, I think back to a story growing up in Germany. Our dad was trying to buy a big lake and piece of land. And you remember that for 6 months, 7 months, it was a larger commercial transaction. The banker he's using for the loan kept telling him, yep, we're good, we're going through. Never communicating bad news, never communicating that underwriting was really languishing and not really wanting to do the deal with us. You remember that? And then it all fell through after 8 months of work because of a bad loan officer at a bank who wasn't willing to communicate bad news. I mean, that's how you ruin relationships, right? Because up until that point, our dad had thought that guy was the bee's knees and the cat's meow because we'd done other deals.
The question then becomes, at the end, well, why'd you wait so long to tell me? I don't understand that. You couldn't have found time. So that's always deliver bad news early. And
think
you
of yourself as a newscaster, right? Do people in the evening news, are they the news? Do they get in trouble saying that, hey, there was 10 murders in Baltimore City this week?
That's a great analogy. I've never heard
but
that.
All
Also
of a sudden,
sad.
if you delay on, it's also sad. But if you delay giving the information, you now become the news, right? You are the news at that point. Right. So why delaying your client? Say, hey, I unfortunately don't have great news. However, I just wanted to make sure you are so up to speed on this. And if there's any questions that I could help answer for you, do you know what that does to your client relationship? They're like, oh my God, especially if you can't control it.
I've already taken these steps. I just want to keep you in the loop.
I'll use an example that happened today. Earlier today, Terry had a closing that occurred, and the lender had funding documents, and it took over an hour for us to get funding approval. Terry, hopefully you don't mind me telling this story. Terry's hot to trot because I can't believe what's going on. What's doing this? I'm like, Terry, are you that lender? Are you controlling these funding documents? Well, no. Okay, well, just tell the consumer that their lender who they picked is dragging their feet on doing this, and we can't control. We've done everything from our part. Just deliver the news. You're not the news if you deliver the news. And too many people just don't want to deliver bad news.
Wow. You're not the news. I'm going to say that again. You're not the news if you deliver the news. That's timely.
Yeah.
That's powerful, though. I've never really put it, but you do. You become the news. You become the person they talk about if you don't deliver. Right? That's good.
That theory came to me from, look, when we get an abstract on a property, unless I did the deal, I'm getting someone else's work, right? So if they screwed up something on that and I need to call a seller and a listing agent to talk them through it, why would I get anxious about it? I didn't do it. I'm just delivering the news. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But if I order the title on the day I get the contract, and I review the abstract immediately, and I deliver the news, and I'd say, look, I got a solution. It's going to take a little bit of time. I'm here to work through it with you. What can they say? Can they be mad at me? They could unfairly be mad at me, but all of a sudden you just have to say, look, I'm going to do my best to solve this issue that created out there. And I think there's a lot of that, right? You get, listing agents don't want to tell their clients that they got bad home inspection issues that are coming in. Half the time that consumer probably knows some of those issues that are out there, right? Yeah. But they've imputed in their head that, oh my God, they're going to be so upset when we hear that we got a pin coming in and they're going to be requesting $10,000. Well, you got them 30 over list. So let's just take the 10 off it and let's get to settlement, right? Deliver the news timely, because then the person you can either say, hey, we can bail at this moment and put the property back on market. We're probably going to take the 20 grand hit either way at that point, because people are going to think it's damaged goods, or we can give the 10, get to the table, and let's get you down to a new house in Florida. Yep. Deliver the news and go. That's all.
We've talked about being authentically you, being a leader of one, leveling up our communication, all in a matter of 35 minutes? I mean, that's pretty cool. Now, let's flip this back to you guys. What other questions or celebrations or wins?
What are those cute little blue light up things? Are those your microphones?
Oh, yes. So practical from the trainings. Yeah. So these are Rode go-to microphones. So
RODE.
RODE. Yep. Amazon, $137. One plugs into your phone. Yep. One is the one that you clip on your blouse or your sports jacket, and great crisp quality for every video you create. Yep.
Yeah.
Great question.
It's a great way to level up. Like, I wouldn't go out if you're just start with what you have. The setup up here with the laptop and the webcam, that's all you need to get going. Just sit and talk with people.
Do you have
For Rode? No.
Do you have a what?
Like, oh, you mean like a referral link, or more like we don't have a referral link? It would be just go to Amazon and look for the Rode Go, and then like Roman numeral 2. Oh, cool.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. Perfect.
There you go.
It's like $137 or something.
We probably put them in the show notes for anyone watching. Yeah, so if you get the one with 2 mics, it's going to to be a little more.
Three's a good option.
We work on it on certain things, but this one Rode is too
gives you it gives you a little bit versatility.
So Andrew, what we're using right now is a 3-pack. So he has 2 Talk TX and 1 RX receiver. So that would be the 3-pack.
Yeah. Good practice.
Yeah, great. Question. What other questions? So, all right, real quick. We talked about a YouTube channel for your video library. We talked about long form, turning that into short form. 2-hour block,
AI,
a lot of content, a whole month's worth of content. We talked about AI.
Okay, speaking of AI, Ricky and Richmond. Never going to forget Ricky and Richmond.
Oh, my gosh.
No, I do this exercise now in my A training where who here has been using ChatGPT for a while? And anyone listening to this, go do this. This is pretty cool. So go to your ChatGPT and open a new message and just say, hey, ChatGPT, tell me something about myself that I may not know based on all my interactions with you. You all should do that right now because it's kind of fun.
Go ahead. Open up chat.
Don't take my thunder, Tim. I'm going to tell Rick.
No.
Tim, you ever don't do this? Don't do it to me. You know the brother thing. So here's the deal. Once you do that, then this is the fun part. It's hilarious. Ricky's like, hey, once you do that, do this. Say, ChatGPT, write a roast about me based on everything that you know about me. And that is comedy gold.
During the training, Andrew was up there training, and Ricky gave that piece of feedback. I was standing in the back of the room. I was speaking next. So I did this. I went in there and said, I said, based on what you know about me, create a roast of me. I would like to use what you come up with for self-deprecating humor when I speak to groups. Does anybody want to hear it?
Yeah.
I literally put this in, and I was blown away.
Go for it.
All right, it says, so I'm going to, I said, do this to when I get up to speak, right? So, hi, everyone. I'm Tim, your speaker today. Or as my wife calls me, Mr. I'll be home soon, but not really. Honestly, I've spent so much time in conference rooms and on Zoom calls that my kids think the word dad is short for do not disturb. Now, let me tell you, I'm no stranger to this industry. In fact, I'm so passionate about title insurance and real estate that when my friends hear the phrase joint ventures, they assume I'm opening a dispensary. And look, I get it. Title insurance is thrilling. It's right up there with watching paint dry and filing taxes. But here we are making it exciting, or at least pretending to. Now, I've spent a lot of time reimagining sales culture because when it comes to the trifecta of real estate, someone's got to make it fun. I mean, let's face it, mortgage lenders aren't exactly comedians. And real estate agents, they're still trying to figure out the reply all button.
Oh my God.
And speaking of reinventing things, did I mention I'm also an author? I wrote a book called God Energy because clearly coffee and sheer willpower weren't catching enough titles. Honestly, writing a book about energy while raising 4 kids and running a marathon in every state have been my boldest marketing tactic yet, because nothing says burnout like multitasking that hard. My poor wife has been holding our family together like a realtor holding a deal together at 4:59 p.m. on a Friday. But let's not forget my podcast. I started Energy for Sales because I thought the world needed yet another middle-aged guy with a microphone and unsolicited advice. And you know, people tell me all the time, Tim, you're like Tony Robbins of sales. I tell them, yeah, except shorter, less motivational, and with way more dad jokes. Now I've had the privilege of speaking across the country, blah, blah, blah. So it just goes in and it wraps up pretty nicely. But
So way
I
to
just
roast
thought-
yourself. So
yeah.
we just roast. We're going to roast.
Okay,
Brad.
we're
Everyone want to
roasting
roast
Brad.
Brad?
Let's go.
We have some fun. Okay,
Did
but
you
I'm
do
going
this
to
in
do
yours?
it.
You did say?
We just
Like
did it while you
what's
were
the guy's
talking.
name? Tony. Just don't cancel me, and we'll be okay. I'm kidding. So here we go. All right. Wait. Oh, this is kind of short.
It is short.
Okay, but is it funny? Did you?
Well, I
read it?
didn't mind like a bio, like you'd be reading a bio. So
All right. So
Okay.
well, before we go through it, let me just give everyone. I'm gonna give so everyone has full context. Some people know me well, others don't.
So the word karaoke might show up?
Anything's possible there. You know, I've been known to belt a tune when I'm in a good mood. I have an undergraduate in marketing, which most attorneys think that's idiotic, but whatever. I also am the proudest graduate of a D3 college in the history of D3 colleges. I'm a Salisbury Seagull, and extremely proud of that. My Netflix account, my username for that is Seagull1. And so based off of that and what I do, now, Andrew, you can read.
Okay, so this is a pretty short one, but it's pretty funny. All right, Brad. So we're going full roast mode here. So, Brad Walsh, Salisbury's finest marketing grad. You strut around like you're the Seagull King, but let's be real, man. Seagulls are just pigeons with better PR. That marketing degree of yours, you probably used it more to defend pineapple on pizza than to actually market anything. Salisbury University, huh? The Harvard of small Maryland towns. Big fish in a puddle. Am I right? Absolutely. And don't even get me started on your LinkedIn profile. I'm sure every recruiter is just dying to hire someone whose biggest selling point is Bachelor of Science in Marketing and a loyal Seagulls fan. But hey, at least you've got that Salisbury pride, because if there's one thing better than marketing skills, it's the ability to cheer for a bird that literally steals fries off of tourists.
do you like pineapple pizza?
I don't.
Okay.
My mom loved pineapple on pizza, and it was like, I couldn't deal with that. I'm a pepperoni and sausage from Papa John's is
Okay.
actually, I love DiGiorno almost better than any other pizza.
My wife
And
too.
you can get it on a hot deal over at Sam's Club, and
$5.99, right?
$5.99. And
Brad, will you tell the room about your first job at Salisbury and your other name?
oh, okay. That's good.
an Awesome story.
So I've had a lot of wild jobs throughout my career, professional and then growing up. So when I went to Salisbury, my parents paid my tuition, and I was responsible for room and board. And so I had to have a job to get my way through. My summer living didn't cut it. And so I wasn't allowed to work my first year, but after that I could work during the school year. And so back then, the highest paying job that I could get in town was $8.25 an hour. And it was at a place called the Oil Spot. So on Saturday mornings, I went, and it's essentially a Jiffy Lube, but it was like a localized non-franchise version of it. And so I changed oil at the Jiffy Lube, or Oil Spot, and which is pretty tough to do after you've been out all night and having a good time, rolling in there at 6:45 on Saturday morning for a nice 12-hour shift of changing oil. But when I got there, they had just ordered all of the customized like Dickies uniforms for everyone.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a nice poop brown color.
Nice.
And they wouldn't let me get my own name tag because they'd just done this custom order. And apparently they didn't have high turnover there. So they said, well, this one guy just left and he's about your size. So he was not about my size. He was 3 sizes bigger than me. But they gave me his
Kind of like me.
poop brown outfit, and the guy's name was Reggie. So I wouldn't let me cover it up. And so literally I'd have to go, they go in there and then people would just be like, "Hey, Reggie," and I'm like, "You like don't remember that you are Reggie," and then.
I'm not being authentic with you.
Especially with a hangover too, that's a little tough because the oil pump would literally pump out of these big barrels and just go chunga, chunga, chunga all dang day long. But yes, that was my life as Reggie at the oil spot, and I did that for 2 years, and it was the best paying job in town. So,
And now you all know why he does not like buyer or seller impersonation.
there we go. I do not like buyer and seller impersonation, but yeah, there was nothing better
was
than
teeing it up for the punchline. I love it.
there's nothing better rolling up to the food court while you're just leaving the oil spot, just covered in oil. That was a fun.
Yeah.
It got the ladies. It was nice.
Absolutely. The smell.
The smell. It was
Look
very
at you now.
slick. It was an odor of
Salisbury's
5W20.
finest. Yeah.
So, what
That's
other
great.
questions? We
Yeah.
have?
Yeah.
I
What
feel
other
like we haven't
questions?
gotten enough from the crowd today. Brooke's question
Could
to
be
me that
anything.
she handed me
Anywhere.
was, is that your chair that's squeaking?
Yes, it is.
Just reporting the news.
Just, you can't get mad at her. It's just the news, and she delivered it timely.
And I-
She didn't wait till afterwards.
Right.
You
I
were
wanted to-
listening to the
I wanted
We
to-
recording
done
saying,
it
what was
35
that?
minutes ago, but Vicky and I have been doing paper rock, scissors.
It is my chair. Yes, I am overweight and exceed the weight capacity for the seat. So that's what we
Well, then I'm in danger.
Vicky needs to fix
So let me ask you this way: any speaking of squeaky chairs, anything like squeaky all year long that you just not the squeaky wheel you've not gotten to, like in marketing, sales process, something maybe we've trained on. Where's somewhere you got stuck, or something you tried and stopped?
If they're not going to ask questions to us, we should ask them. We'll grill them. I like this.
I
Matt.
got a good one. All right, so I don't know how many of you are here for the Google My Business class. But Andrew really explained a lot on how to maximize your Google My Business and, told us exactly what we needed to do. And it took me 3 months to get it done. And it was something simple that could have been done so much faster. And we are seeing the results immediately. So many of the things that you guys are teaching, it's all about implementation as quickly as possible because then you reap the reward even faster.
Yeah.
So here's a concept for a lot of people. I manage a couple different teams within the company, and one is our builder services and commercial team. And on Wednesdays, we have something that we call it Do It Now Day. So every Wednesday, you have to do something that you've been putting on the back burner or just haven't accomplished. It can be personal or professional. And I say that be personal and professional because a lot of times people put the personal stuff on the back burner because professional, it's so important. What they don't realize is that their professional work is getting damaged by not getting the personal stuff done.
Yeah.
So
Preach.
pick a day of the week and call it your Do It Now Day.
Yeah.
And just literally pick one thing. It can be small, it can be big. We had someone, they've been delaying getting a doctor's appointment. And they're like, oh, it's going to take forever. Might as well not make the phone call. She calls on Do It Now Day, and they say, we actually have an opening for tomorrow.
Wow.
She got something done. All you have to do is, just like anything, right? We're talking, Wendy, about doing the 2-hour shoot. Just commit to it. Do it. Pick one thing a week to do that you otherwise wouldn't accomplish. At the end of the day, at the end of the year, you're going to get 52 things done that you otherwise maybe, let's just say that you would have delayed doing 3/4 of them. Just get something done.
It's an important, but guaranteed, it's an important high value item, but it's not urgent.
Yep.
Never is urgent. Nobody's calling you saying I didn't see a new Google review this week. No one calling you saying that. But since you've implemented, I think this just jumped up 40 reviews already in like a month or so.
Yes, yeah, something like that.
It's
A lot of
insane.
times it's not urgent until it becomes urgent because you haven't dealt
Right.
with it.
Well, there you go, like the doctor's
And,
appointment.
and some of the stuff can lay in the background.
Right.
But too many people realize that the urgent items that come out of a lot of this stuff, they really should never have been urgent.
Can I? So just the leadership lesson here too. If you lead a team, this is something that Tim and I we harp on it on this podcast a lot of like people before profit. Not in the sense that running a business to make money isn't what we're in business for. It's like the method that you make the money, right? With a team. So I love that you said for a team, it's a do it now day where it's like you can go spend that time doing something personal and it's okay. Because I know a ton of leaders out there will be like, you're not doing personal stuff on the clock, right? You can't do that. You're on my clock. I'm paying you. So the heart of leadership
doctors'
here.
offices are open after we get off work.
Exactly. None.
Okay. Like
None.
you know.
So this is an inherent leadership lesson. When we talk about people before profits, that's an exact example of good leadership that allows people to focus and prioritize things that they need to get done so they can work even better for us.
Yeah.
It's great.
I have a technical question.
Yeah.
Because I get hung up when I won't implement one thing's holding me back, right? So long video, how do you store it? How do you get it so we can edit it? Tell me about that.
Yeah, it's great. So
Phone?
yes. So well, there's many different methods to record.
Yeah.
The easiest for everybody in the room is we already have Teams and Zoom. So if you simply get on a Zoom and hit record, it's going to save a link to that recording in your Zoom account. That's the easiest way. Or simply set up a phone tripod with your phone and hit record on your phone. It's going to be stored as a long video in your phone. So that's where I would start. Now, right now, today, we are recording into a podcast platform, which is like Zoom, but it's a podcast platform, so it's a little bit better quality. It's called Riverside. So if you're going to do these conversations very consistently, maybe look at a Riverside because it allows people to join easily from their phone on an app. It records high quality because it's recording to the device first and then uploading the video. So it's not going to be like fuzzy like a Zoom. But don't let that hold you back.
Yeah.
So record there. And then we talked about this tool in our AI trainings a few times, but Opus.pro, which is where you simply don't focus on editing something perfect for talking videos.
Yeah.
Just take the video, put it up into Opus.pro, and it will edit into short clips for you, fully captioned, ready to go. That's really what I would say start doing. But from the documentation that you guys are doing, though, you're just filming everyday moments. You're around like, we're getting in the car, we're driving over here, we're going over to drop this off, we're going to pick this up, we're in the office doing this. If you just get in the habit of like pulling out your phone and getting like pan shots and stuff, then it's very easy to take the pan shot and even just put like words over it with music. And then that's a good video to post as well. So thinking about just documentation, a couple different methods there, but yeah, start with Zoom, start with your phone. Don't overcomplicate it.
And the platform you use or the recording platform you use, just pick or determine what is the end result.
Yeah.
So if you are doing a podcast, Riverside. But if you're just wanting to get content and you want to be efficient with it, and get on Zoom, bring one of your referral partners on with you, have 3 good power questions that you can ask each person, kind of the same format each time. How long you been doing this? What's your favorite piece of advice you give to people? Like just have those 3 power questions and you hit record. It's 20 minutes, 30 minutes, maybe you're done, upload it. And then you're getting content out of it that you can use from us. I will tell you, when I first started video, I just uploaded right away. I'd shoot it on my phone, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and I upload it to YouTube. I just created a channel for myself, uploaded it. You can upload and mark it private, unlisted, or public. So if it wasn't something I wanted out there public yet, or maybe I want to go back in and trim it or add a thumbnail, I would just mark it unlisted. And then I would have an editing time block where I would go into my YouTube channel, edit, and then I'd mark it public. And then I would figure out, okay, this is going to my monthly newsletter. So I built a library. And then when Opus came along, it was like, oh my gosh, I have all these YouTube links that I could go back to and throw any one of those in Opus. And you know what? The other day I found one. I'm like, this is so timely right now. And it was like 7 years ago I did this talk. I'm like, this is so timely. And I was like tearing up listening to my own talk. It's weird, I know. But it was a time in my life, kind of like that video was your first one. I went back and watched this and I was like, this is what I needed today. So today, 7 years later, there wasn't Opus then. I throw it in Opus and I have content in Opus I just created. I'm like, I can't wait to share these little clips. And this is like 7-year-old me.
Man, if you could have heard Tim 7 years ago in Nashville, Tennessee. All right, y'all, I'm coming to you live here in Nashville. Man, if you all could have heard that. I don't know if you can. I don't know if they'll be able to hear it from your phone. But go to Tim's YouTube channel. I think he has some public ones on. I'm not proud of this one
necessarily, but I worked for a company for 10 years before I went out on my own to start sales coaching, and I led their sales team. But we were doing a recruitment effort. Whoever could get the most recruits in to interview with our president.
Yeah.
And now we had a company of about 100 people. We were in the automotive space. We built these multi-million-dollar assembly lines. So it was nothing sexy, but we had machinists, we had engineers, we had whatever. But our boss, he would always say, I'm the dumbest person in the building. I just hire smart people. And he was always about growth. So he always putting a book on people's desks. So I'll find this one. I'll see if I can play it, but you guys can keep talking. If not, I'll send it to you and send it out.
My biggest takeaway when you talk about all right, 7 years ago where you were with this
Yeah.
to present day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I cannot think of anything recently, the way that the technology has advanced to allow us to do these things so much easier. 5 years ago, I was like, it would be
Insane.
really cool if we could like shoot some videos, like embed this, but then I need to polish them up.
Yeah.
Oh my God, who are we going to hire? Oh, it's $15,000
Yeah.
to do this. Okay, we're going to put that on the back burner for a second. But now it's so easy, right? It's so available. And I think the tough part about that is getting yourself to change the mindset. So you got to change your mindset on what's capable, change your mindset on how to utilize the resources.
Yeah.
Mac's really good with me because she's really forced me into using AI to not make the decisions for me, to aggregate data, to just cut the corner on something.
Cut to the meat of the issue.
So I'm creating a spoiler alert. We got a new CE course we're going to be teaching at DSAC in February, and it's all about digital closings and the pros, the cons, what everyone kind of needs to know, because frankly, we've had some real boondoggles here recently of just stuff that's going, and agents don't really understand the complexities that's associated with it. So I'm like, okay, I'll carve some time over Thanksgiving and I'll try and write this presentation. And I was away with the family down at Disney, and everyone knows I love large crowds. So I'm standing in line in one of the turnstiles, and I'm like, you know what? Go into ChatGPT. Can you create a presentation aimed at realtors in Anne Arundel County that discusses remote online notary and the other types of digital closings and the pitfalls in this, and this? About 20 seconds later, with 2 different prompts, I was like, and can you create this into a PowerPoint? Now, was it the final product?
No.
Absolutely
It
not.
was 80% of the way there.
80% of the way, and it probably saved me 5 to 6 hours.
Yep.
Yeah. Somebody said the art of it's all about the art of the start. How many times do you know what you want, but you go to Canva and it's like, or PowerPoint, it's like, what should go on the first slide? Let AI, based on everything they've seen in the Internet of Things, create that rough draft for you, 80%. Yep. Save yourself the time. Where's your time best spent? To make the most business in 2025, where will your time best be spent?
Well, I think the interesting thing too,
in front of people.
Well, in front of people, that relationships you are your own sphere of influence. I think people too often want to look at where am I impacting out? You got to start with yourself, and then that expands out.
If I give any advice on that, it would be look in your business where you're spending time behind a computer doing busy work. That's not helping you. Well, it might be part of a transaction, but it's not helping you create new conversations. I guarantee you AI can probably help you streamline some of that so that you can spend more time going out and creating new conversations, because if you create more conversations, you create more transactions in your business. Hands down, period. But then go into it asking better questions too. I think one thing
prompts are everything.
Well, with GPT, 100%. But some of the stuff we're analyzing and transposing from a PDF into an Excel, you can use AI for that. And the PowerPoint example, but free yourself up to go have conversations, but then go into those conversations thinking about, how are you getting people to think about their wealth, their real estate differently too. So if you want to create some interest, you got to pique some interest sometimes in those conversations. It's not always going to just happen.
Yeah, we talk about leveling up our company. I think, or like the company we keep in 2025, I would challenge all of us, level up our conversation. Are the questions we ask the challenge? If no one's read this book, it'd be a great read for 2025, but it's the Challenger Sale. Challenger Sale is fantastic because it's all about the people, and they've studied, this is the most, the biggest companies have studied this, and the salespeople who make the most, and really it doesn't matter which industry, are not the hardest worker. You think the person who just works the hardest, it's not the hardest worker. It's not the most customer service. There's relationship-driven sales. There's a hard worker sales. There's the lone wolf sales. They go after big stuff, and they're it's the challenger sale. It's the person who comes to any conversation, listens well, asks good questions, and challenges their client or prospective client with something. It makes that person literally walk away from the conversation saying, I hadn't thought of that. So
too many people don't want to challenge
2025, because it's scary. What if I turn up? you will attract more business if you become a challenger salesperson. And there's a way to do it. There's a way to do it, non-graciously, thinking you're the cat's pajamas, or there's a way to do it, not you, cat, but there's also a way to do it where you can go in and say, hey, it's interesting. Based on what you're telling me, I was helping somebody over here, a couple months back, and we looked at this option. You could tell it in more of a story fashion, more of a based on what you shared fashion. Hey, have you ever thought about, and just really, you said it earlier, consultative, but honestly challenge them to stretch, to think. I tell this story. I moved my mother-in-law in next door. She works part-time for me. You guys have heard the story, but I will tell you, no real estate agent in my life has ever planted a seed with me of saying, hey, tell me about your family. Are you ever thinking about bringing family to the state? Nobody. And I'm sitting here going, if I was a real estate agent, I would be thinking about what are all the ways, like I would go back to the last year of all my clients, and I would say, where did this lead? Like, what did this lead come from or come through? What was their scenario? Okay, now how can I ask a question based on this transaction to my current database of prospects? Hey, 3 months ago, I moved somebody from Michigan, somebody's mom in from Michigan. And I thought, how many of you might be looking to bring a relative? Now, you might think we need to wait for rates to whatever. This might be the best time to move a relative in. Give me a call.
Here's a stat for you.
Challenge them. Yeah.
So NAR just published this data that 17% of home buyers are multi-generational home buyers. That's almost 1 in 5. That singular concept, when people talk about how they're changing their business on it, those are the things that people need to be looking at. It's not the same linear deals anymore. So you have to be looking at these other ones. There's also anyone that says it was 73% of the transactions last year didn't have someone living in the home under the age of 18 years old.
Wow.
Of home buyers in 2023 to 24.
Wow.
Everyone knows I'm a big data junkie, but
It's crazy.
I don't just read the data. I'm trying to get what out of it, right? Because if I'm in your shoes, I'm looking at it going, okay, I'm going to try and tailor my marketing strategy around what? Well, if 73% of home buyers don't have someone in there, I'm not going to be like, oh, look at these great schools. Maybe the house doesn't have great schools in that area, okay? Maybe they're going to have to go private. But don't get down about that.
Right.
Almost 3 out of 4 people don't care about the schools.
Don't need it.
So, but looking at the data and informing it, we had our team sales meeting today. And I was talking about the importance of you are all your own business. You have to treat yourself like a business.
Yep.
And you are the most important thing. You've got to level up. You've got to know the data. You've got to know what's going on. You need to know your local markets. Utilize things like GPT, to get some data about a community or whatever. There's so many resources out there that you can aggregate, but spend 1 hour a week leveling up yourself.
Yep.
In whatever way. Maybe it's to do it now. Maybe it's looking at data and figuring out what you can pull out with it. There's a ton of free stuff out there. People always like, where do I go to get this?
Yeah.
How's this? Yeah. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
There's a lot of these people that put it out there. So go learn it, figure it out, because there are definitely sales angles that you can increase your business in 25 by doing so.
Yeah, Mike Weinberg talks about it in his book, New Sales Simplified, and he talks about you simply have to get better at sales. You simply have to get better at telling the sales story in the terms and the words of your prospective client. That's it. So stop trying to pitch them on something. Go tell the stories that they can resonate with, peaks of interest, bring the diversity to it. I mean, that's some powerful concepts, guys.
Yeah. Good.
Definitely a lot there.
A few more questions, and then we'll break for happy hour. I loved your technical. That was is super practical.
Yep.
How do I where do I store it? How do I upload? That was great. Any other?
All right, I'll ask a question.
Ooh.
And who wants to be a guinea pig for me?
Before you ask the question, before we know what it
I'm going to
is.
give Heather the opportunity. What is one thing? Was one thing that you learned this year that you're going to start doing?
There you go.
What is one thing that you're going to stop doing? And what was your biggest takeaway from this series this year? Because I think you were at almost
Most of them.
Quite a few.
almost all of them.
So honestly, I mean, after the very first one, I think they called Eagle Title and said, what a great value add, and thank you so much for doing this for us. And then I went around telling agents, come to this, sign up for this. If you're not on the list, find a way to get there. So just having a space where we could be present and kind of talk about all the things that go on in our industry and what really makes a difference when, I think like, is the juice worth the squeeze? If I'm putting time, energy, and effort into this, am I gonna get something out of this?
That's good.
So I do believe it's video, and I've taken them. I have a lot of content on my phone, and I have not shared them. I accidentally shared something in the bathtub this morning. I was so grateful that it was just a picture of a dress that I purchased yesterday. But I'm going to stop trying to be a marketeer in the bathtub. So all of a sudden people started liking my photo, and I thought, what the heck did I post? Here I am trying to take this 15 minutes of time. But that is true that I just really need to block off. My 2025 calendar is already started that I blocked time to just do social media content.
That's great.
And I'll be brave enough to get at least one out a week will be my commitment until I'm a little more comfortable.
Fantastic.
What am I going to stop doing? I'm going to stop putting others first. And that may sound super selfish. And coming from a mom that started her life as a teacher and kind of being in that nurturing space, that's still how I want to take care of my clients. Most of my business is relationship built. But what I've learned through listening to you guys, right, is that when I prioritize me and my business, the rest can fall into place naturally. And that's really freeing for me. It's also really uncomfortable for me. But it's reinforced time and time again. And when I do it, I see it work.
Yeah.
And when I'm authentically me, whether it be my crazy shoes that I, resonated with why I bought those shoes, and just sharing those with people or any other thing that there's a following out there.
Yeah.
And I won't be for everybody, but those that are my style and appreciate how I show up do tell their friends, and that's good enough.
Are you in year 5? Wait, how long have you been in?
This is my 6th year.
I was going to say 5 to 7.
Wow.
19.
You hit on something, and I appreciate you sharing, because I see a lot of agents, just like yourself, think that they need to be something to everyone. You talk about putting yourself first. I don't think that's a problem. Now, I see people who go to an extreme with it, and I'm like, okay, you're going to take yourself extremely out of the business, and that takes you, like the pendulum goes too far, right? I think what you're really, at some level where you get to with that is, you're like, I feel like I'm something to everyone but nothing to myself, and I'm the last in line for something. And I always think about it this way. I can't call my general practitioner right now and be like, I just wanted to let you know I'll be at your office tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. for my annual physical. They'd laugh me out of the place. Like, our first one is in June, buddy, so we'll see you then. But there's very few professionals that get treated by their clients in a way that you're accessible all the time. And look, I get it. Like, I'm a service provider to a group of people that are incredibly busy. I talked about earlier about, hey, I'd rather have the call on Saturday than I would on Monday, trying to put it back together. But it's a really fine line, right? And creating those boundaries is important, because I've also seen people go to the complete opposite side and hurt themselves. Like, all the hard work they put to get there, it's like creating the boundary, but it's really important because too many people burn out because they're trying to do all of that.
And I think it's really important, and I'm sorry, just to realize that you are the leader of your own business, right? And that a true leader is only someone that people are willing to follow, right? It's not just a title. But to your point of setting those boundaries, if we do it at the beginning of that relationship, it makes the rest of that so much easier to handle, right? So that, you know what, you can reach out to me anytime. When I'm with my family, I try to be fully present. When I'm with you, my clients, I try to be fully present. So if I don't get back to you, if I don't answer your call, I'll let you know when I can get back to you. But I set those boundaries ahead of time, And then also say, every Tuesday, you're gonna receive a report from me. Good, bad, or indifferent.
Well, you're setting those expectations up front, which is that's, I think sometimes people, when they don't know when they're going to get the information, they get anxious.
It makes them worry. Yeah.
But it helps you to prioritize your time as well. It's not only a service to your clients, but it really is a service to yourself as well.
And I think there's something to be said for it with your point. If you're starting out now, start doing that. Set good boundaries up front, but keep in mind, like your past clients that you do a lot of business with, you might have to walk some things back and reset some boundaries. Because if you've been super accessible for a long time, no, not just you, but yeah, everyone. Yeah. It's like, it's hard, right? Because they're used to something. Like, how do you go back then and reset the boundary? Because we need to walk it back. We got to prioritize family. We got to prioritize ourselves as well.
Chris, did you ever come?
I did. I saw something on Instagram. I was trying to pull it up, but I can't in your office for whatever reason.
Uh-oh.
Gotta get on the Wi-Fi back there.
Interviewing someone that I can't remember his name, but anyway, it was a mind shift for me, and it was around what we were just talking about. So the gentleman said, he said, what if I told you you had one most important role in your life, and it's the one thing for your entire life that you have to do. It's to take care of one human, and the human is you. So you wake up in the morning and say, what am I doing to take care of my human? To take care of myself.
Wow.
And it just
Light bulb, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
I heard right to that point, Warren Buffett tells a story. Have you ever heard this one? Same thing. He's like, so you turn 18, and let's just say when you turn 18, you're given a free car. Any car you want, you get to pick it, you get to choose it, you're given a free car. But there's a catch. It's the only car you get for the rest of your life. How are you going to treat that car? Right? Same exact concept. I love that. I think as you go into the new year, you can't go wrong focusing on boundaries, focusing on internal health first, taking care of yourself, taking care of all those things so you can serve others better. And we have a good friend that says, I'd rather go deeper with a few than shallow with many.
Let me ask this question. If you could have only one car, what car would it be?
That's a great question.
For the rest of my life?
If you could have one vehicle for the rest of your life.
Probably a 2003 Honda Accord, because I know it'll last.
Jen, how about you?
I would probably get the truck I've always wanted, probably a Toyota Tundra.
What color?
White, pearl white.
Pearl white.
With the gold trim.
I have the car that I would always buy because I buy the same exact vehicle every time.
Okay.
Except for one very colossal mistake that I made last year when I bought.
Do you all know this?
You guys may not know the story. I may not. But when I was in high school, there's a 1996 white F-150 that I desperately wanted, and I did not drive one of those. I drove something that didn't look like it, didn't sound like it, a little rice rocket with bad exhaust on it. 5-speed short shifter. It was terrible. Hand me down for my brother. So when I went to college, I was working, I had some goals, I went into a lot of things, and this white F-150 was in the back of my mind. I always wanted a white F-150. I get out of college right at the beginning of the Great Recession, and gas has like ballooned up, and I didn't even have enough money to fill a fuel tank in that thing. So I actually had to get rid of my Grand Cherokee that I had gotten by that point because I couldn't, commuting to work was killing me. So I drove that car for a decade. And then after I passed the bar, I had my first child, and it was time to get a new vehicle. And for about 18 months, I looked online for white F-150s. And I'd look, and my wife would be like, are you going to pull the trigger on this or not? Because if you don't buy one soon, I'm going to murder you. And so I eventually bought one. It was my favorite. White, tan interior, two-tone at the bottom. I drove that truck for another decade. And then something happened to it. And I always said I would never buy a black-on-black vehicle. And when that truck broke, I guess it was June of 23, there was no supply. And so I called the dealership. I was like, I would like to buy a new F-150 Super Crew, white with tin interior, two-tone. And they're like, sir, those cars don't exist right now.
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And so I wound up leaving the dealership. I always said I would never buy black on black. I wound up leaving the dealership with a black on black F-150. Now, I will tell you that there's two morals to that story, which is when someone says they'll never buy something, baloney, they will do it and need.
The lead is never dead.
The second part of that story is just be yourself and trust that you know exactly what you want and don't compromise to anyone else. So I recently, and the new recipient after a 10-month or 8 or 10 month delay, I'm driving my white F-150 two-tone with a tan interior again.
Are you serious?
The mojo's back, baby.
The mojo's back. 2025 is going to be the best year yet.
Oh, the footnote is,
I would never buy a black on black Ford F-150.
yeah, Terry would never buy it except for if I had an extremely hot deal that I was giving away at a bargain price. And now T-Bone
Terry is a buyer, not a seller.
I got a red and a black.
Yeah.
Ah, nice.
The only vehicles that Terry buys are if I suggest that he buys something. And,
Brad told me to buy both of them.
yeah.
I remember that story.
I solve problems for Terry. That's what I've done for the last 15 years together. So, but yes. So.
Well, thank you guys for coming out.
Thank you for
Great
being
stuff.
Here this year. Yeah,
Yeah.
we've got a
Thank you, Brad.
strong lineup
Absolutely.
for
Thank
the
you,
new
guys.
year. Well, I think you guys, Vicky, and you'll be getting some of our topics out. Excited. Anything real quick as we wrap? Anything you want to learn about in the new year? Anything you're like?
Let's go deeper.
Can you please go here or do this? Or
White
I've had people
F-150
ask
says.
about strengthening their CRMs.
okay,
Like
CRMs.
what to do, how to do it.
Yeah. So to that, I think the sequencing was my absolute favorite
Okay.
that I attended. It's my thumbs up and my thumbs down. Which I mentioned to
What
you.
about it in particular resonated with you?
Because it was exactly like what Brooke said. I came and I said, hey, we were talking about creating a CRM, and I had done a lot of research into these, ones that you spend $500 for.
Yeah.
And in a perfect, timely manner, I came in, I was sitting here, and Tim goes, all these real estate agents think they need a CRM. You just need an Excel spreadsheet and sequencing. And I was like, pen and paper. And so that process started and was really great. And then business happened and life happened, and the sequencing kind of went by the wayside, which I shared with you. So
Yep.
starting that up and tying the sequencing into the CRM,
Yep.
I would love to revisit that.
Okay, CRM and sequencing, and doing a deeper dive. I've since morphed that. Sequencing change. Like I tweak it all the time, and technology's changing all the time. So where can we add that? So perfect. Sequencing,
good.
CRM.
And
What
then
else?
also, since we're into, I think there's one thing about getting the video and posting the video, right? You say post the video, but I really just can't get over myself or my standards. And so I really do believe that there has to be a certain quality of your content. If it's all choppy and crappy, nobody wants to watch that. So if there are,
So maybe a mindset, maybe a little bit more on the.
Wait, are you trying to get okay posting something that's not perfect to your standard, or are you trying to
I don't do anything that's not perfect.
so are you trying to get to a point where I want to clarify that to understand so we
Yeah.
bring the right stuff. Are you trying to get to a point do you want something to help like a 10-minute post-it session in every session where everyone gets in post a video that they're not perfectly comfortable with, or is it more of how do I get things perfect with technology?
I want to get things perfect.
Okay, so more tools
Yeah.
versus more the mindset.
Yeah.
Okay.
The right tools for you.
Yeah.
The right tools and setting
content, but it's
Yeah.
what you've created in your head versus the quality of what you've done and what's realistic for you.
Okay.
I'll challenge you on one thing.
Okay.
If it's 90% there, roll with it. If you wait till it's 100% done, you are cooked.
It'll never be done.
Most of the things that we don't like are 55 seconds into the video. And just to be honest, everyone stopped watching at 40 seconds.
37. 37 is the
I'm
average.
just saying.
People stop watching.
Mac yells at me all the time because she's like, just make a damn decision. We're
Yeah.
almost there.
Yeah.
If 90% done is better than 100% not done.
Yeah.
And too many people lose that concept. Because
Happy holidays.
Good to
to
see you.
Andrew's point, they're not hanging on for the last 10 seconds.
And
They're done at that point.
And you got to realize the same standard you put on yourself, no one else is putting on you. And almost sometimes perfection can breed in authenticity. Sometimes. Depends what it is.
Did you know some people will reach out to somebody less professional looking on a video because they feel more relatable to that person? Whereas the person who's so polished, it almost creates this little mountain in their head to get over. I'm not saying don't go be polished. There's a time and a place. But
a great example is, so Terry used to have this law client, and when Terry had to go out for his annual client visit with him, the guy was like, you're meeting with my team, so if you show up in that suit, you're walking right back out the door. The guy ran a landscaping business. He wanted Terry in a pair of jeans, tennis shoes, and a polo shirt. If he showed up more, he kicked him out. People need to feel, like your clients need to feel comfortable being who they are. I'll never forget, there was an agent early on in my career. I said, why don't you wear a suit to closing? This is when we were back in Town Center. And he goes, because I found out, because I used to wear a suit. I used to wear a tie. I had my deal for closing day. He goes, and then one of my clients was like, man, you're stressing me out. This is my second home that I'm buying, and I'm trying to buy the Annapolis lifestyle. So if you could tone it down. After I heard that story, that was the last time I wore a tie. But
Sperry's. Not to you absolutely have a standard you want to uphold, but don't let the tiny little thing that is just not perfect in your brain keep you from doing something that, because again, think about the time waste that's happening if you're trying to get it too perfect, where you can move on and do more productive things. So just again, we can work through some of these things. We also floated kind of some execution sessions where it's kind of just dig in and do.
Execution.
So
I say let's do video sessions, shoot
so
it, post it while we're together, because the camaraderie, the support, it'll help. I think get over it.
Commentary will definitely help others around you.
Yeah, right.
Come on, Kat.
Yeah.
So, well, we really appreciate everyone this year, and thank you for coming.
Were you going to add something?
I'd like more.
More Google.
More Google.
Okay.
Yeah.
More Google. All right.
Cool.
We got at least the first quarter nailed down.
exactly.
There we go.
Good. All right, y'all.
Awesome, gents.
Thank
Good
you.
stuff.